I had a really good day today at the Gates Foundation, and actually, many of the slides that you all presented during the genetic gains, I presented to the Gates Foundation as I articulated our new org structure in service of country strategies. And it was very timely for the Gates Foundation because they are going through a restructuring themselves, and the structure they're proposing is very similar to that which we have just implemented. So hopefully that reinforces that we're on the right path with this restructuring, and that genetic gains is one of the pillars of the Gates Foundation as well. So very timely, and I think very relevant, the reorganization. As far as genetic gains is concerned, the one slide I did present on genetic gains, actually it came out of a question from Lawrence Kent of the Gates Foundation, was on how will this structure function. And so I used the slide that Rajiv had presented to his team, and which I presented during my DG dialogue, around the interactions between the regional programs, the genetic gains, and the innovation systems for the drylands. And I think to Moses' point of how this is going to work, I think it would be a good starting point before you lock yourselves in a room to have a look at that slide again and just see if the interactions that are laid out in that slide seem appropriate, and where not, what needs to be changed for genetic gains to accelerate the progress in our breeding programs in all regions, not just in Patancheru, but our programs in Western Central Africa and Eastern and Southern Africa as well. I think, when we look at genetic gains, really what we're trying to achieve here is not just in accelerating the development of improved varieties, but also in their delivery. And that's why you'll see this movement back and forth between the gene bank, the development of pre-breeding material markers to accelerate genetic gains, the forward breeding, and then switching over to our regional programs where the breeding actually takes place and where the varieties are delivered. But the knowledge that we learn from that process of developing and delivering improved varieties feeds back into the global program of seed systems. So a lot of the knowledge that we're going to be generating for the seed systems is actually going to be coming from our regional programs. So, that's how I see genetic gains, but obviously there's going to be some difference of opinion or perspective on that. But that's the intent. I'm glad to see we have all of the other programs represented in this meeting, because it's really what we need to do in order to foster this integration across both global programs as well as all three regional programs. It's the only way that this new reorg is going to work, and for us to maximize our impact in translating high quality science into products and services in farmers' fields. So I had a chance actually to listen to most of the presentations while I was on public transit. Very entertaining, both the public transit and the presentations. But I wanted to highlight one point, and that was Joanna's presentation. And we don't often think about communications as a core part of our research. But in going to the foundation today, it really resonated with the fact that we need to do a far better job of communicating our research results, not just in published journals, but in other media, and that we need to document our technologies that are ready for scaling up. So it was unfortunate that so few hands went up when we talked about the proven technologies on our website, and it's something that I'm going to be personally monitoring, and what technologies are ready for delivery to smallholder farmers, including the outputs coming from genetic gains. So I want to leave it at that for now, but welcome any questions that will support the deliberations over the next 2 days. So I open it up to questions. I will say that the presentation at the Gates Foundation was well received. And I had follow-up discussions with program officers. There's key positions that we need to fill in our breeding programs. Peter, Moses, you know what those positions are, so we need to act on those. And also, I think, as we go through our discussion on genetic gains, I think it's going to be important to highlight what are the skill sets and training we need to unlock the full potential of the genetic gains program. And how do we work across the different programs where someone will be housed within one program, but working within themes across several different programs. So a couple of just logistical things that I think this group should put on the table for discussion. Anyway, I open up to questions. So fire away.
Okay, David, I'll look around, but first of all, I'll mention the fact that we have Dr. Eng our new scientist that's leading the forward breeding program. He's come early to join us, so they're entering the discussions over the next couple of days. So it's really important engagement.
Excellent. Great. Excellent. Well, a warm welcome. Thanks for joining us early. It's a very timely meeting.
Okay, questions for David. You know he likes getting questions after his dialogue, so. And he's just about to have some leave, so we'll have for a few days.
Yeah, that's right. Well, maybe it's easier to ask questions when I'm on this end of the phone and you guys are over there. Anyway, any questions are most welcome. I think this is a very important meeting. I really do believe Moses asked the right question or framed the right debate. Let's put hard questions on the table so we solve them. There's no sacred cows here, as they say, as far as, programs. We want to optimize these programs for success. And you are all the architects to make this work. I'm here to support you in that endeavor. I think, as we look to a new phase of CRPs, CG research programs, that is, that I think a lot of different organizations are looking at this new structure to see how it's going to work. But as I said at the beginning, having talked to the Gates Foundation, they too are thinking of a similar structure for their own organization as a grant-making agency.
Okay, Moses is going to ask you a question.
Oh, great. I like hard questions from Moses.
Was your bus air conditioned? Was there air conditioning on your bus?
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, I enjoyed my bus ride. And I also enjoyed the presentations, especially yours with the teeter-totter around conventional breeding and biotechnology.
Okay, now I can come to my question. I asked it on behalf of the staff at Patancheru whether your bus was air conditioned. So I hope they'll blame me for that.
Oh no, I didn't have an air conditioned bus, but I did have a seat on the bus, so I consider myself fortunate.
Yeah, my question is around the country program. How is you approaching that? The country program.
Around the country programs? Yeah.
Okay.
How is Gates funded?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're trying to figure out country programs and strategies, Moses, to be honest. I think actually we're more advanced than they are, and so they were very keen to hear about my presentation on our development and early stages of implementation of country programs. But my message to them was also around the how to do country programs. And I think that's the key piece here. As we discussed in Nairobi last week, really engaging with our partners early on in the process. So there's joint ownership of country strategies, because at the end of the day, these strategies are the country strategies. They're the country's strategies, not necessarily ours. ICRISAT is here as an agent to bring together high quality science and partnerships to empower national programs, especially in the developing world, but to improve the lives of smallholder farmers. And so each country is going to have different requirements, both technically, but also from a capacity building and backstopping perspective. Some countries are very strong national programs, as you saw in Ethiopia with the sorghum program at the Hope launch. And other programs are very weak, and we have to step up our game and support them probably all the way along the technology development and delivery spectrum. So I think this is really the power of country strategies, is that we tailor our interventions to what are the needs, contexts, and partners on the ground to be successful. So the foundation was keen to see both how we went about it and what we are, or what stage we are in the implementation. And I was very honest that this is an evolving process. We haven't completely figured it out ourselves. But by getting started on that journey, we are figuring out step by step.
Thanks, Peter. So, good evening, David, once again. So, let me thank you once again for addressing this group, but we are very much pleased to see that you had great discussions with the Gates Foundation, and this is very fantastic to know that genetic gains is one of the important pillars in the Gates Foundation. So, thank you very much for taking care of these things forward. So, I think that now, and as you suggested now, and also in your message, I read out your message in which you told that the genetic gain program, together with other regional programs, we need to address the issues not only for the conventional traits like yield, but also need to go beyond that one, which includes nutrition and market. So I think that in the next 2 days we are going to have those discussions in view of your suggestions and guidance. But most important challenge probably, or maybe in, I don't know whether in this meeting, but now when we are having the country strategies, and we also have right now we are discussing at the program level, probably we need to map out the activity or output of our genetic gains in the country strategies. I mean, that's the way probably we need to move on. But at present, we are talking right now that well how to deliver the outputs in the breeding program in the regions. And in this context, to the group as well to understand that we have now when we were talking this forward breeding, and Gates Foundation has asked us to lead the project which will be helping forward breeding in the different CGI centers, not only in ICRISAT, but in Semi-Arid and IRRI and other centers. So Intertech now they are starting their laboratory for inauguration day after tomorrow. So basically we are having the right time now that where we have these technologies, where we have this in fact support from you and from Peter and leadership of ICRISAT and also the Gates Foundation. So I think that these pieces are here and there, and next 2 days we will be really working hard on how to bring these things together.
David, can I follow on from that and maybe a tougher question? What do you see as some good indicators of progress that we can make in the next 2 days? What would you like to see come out of these 2 days in terms of both articulating what's done within the genetic gains program and connecting to the regional programs? What do you think are some good indicators?
Yeah, that's a good question, Peter. And I actually spoke to the leadership of the foundation on this from the perspective of the Gates Foundation. I think one is we need a good baseline. I don't know if we really understand where we are on the genetic potential for each of our crops and the gains that we've made over the last 40 years. I think that's a priority. If that data exists, we need to bring that forward and to make that available. The second is just the interactions between the programs. As I mentioned, I thought the diagram that Rajiv presented, I further modified that, and I'll share that with you shortly after I hang up from this call, because I further modified it in talking to the Gates Foundation. But I think you should walk through that diagram and see if the arrows that are connecting the different themes under each of the programs is correct. And of course, the perspective of that diagram is genetic gains, so it's very relevant to this discussion. But I think actually every group, the innovation systems and each of the regional programs should do a similar mapping, because as I explained to the Gates Foundation, I see the regional programs making the call on what are the priority technologies or interventions the global programs should be developing to support the countries in serving smallholder farmers and consumers, I would add, when we talk about nutrition. I think the third area that's probably critical for this discussion is around budgeting and how is budgeting managed. Tied to that, of course, will be staff time in each of the themes, whether that be in the regional program or in one of the two global programs. So that's an important indicator of figuring out how we manage our budgets. But the most important indicator in my mind is the time that it's going to take for one, increased utilization of gene bank resources. Two is the time it takes to integrate multiple traits into new varieties. And three is the time it takes for us to scale up the production and distribution of seed of improved varieties. At the end of the day, the measure of a good variety is the area that it's grown on. And so we need to work with our innovation systems team to help us think through strategically how we do that. I think, for example, in the systems, in innovation systems team, we could be doing the modeling and mapping of where a variety tested in a few locations would enjoy wide-scale adoption based on its performance using homologs of ecology. That's one example of the kind of synergies we need to see across, in that case, two global programs. I think the synergy we're going to see with the regional programs, and I'm glad that our lead for forward breeding is in the room, is how do we support the regional programs in using these new tools to deliver on new products that are an integration of conventional and biotechnology approaches. To Moses' challenge earlier on, we should be seeing a higher percentage of new varieties coming out that integrate molecular markers to accelerate trait integration and product development. There's probably a few others, but I think those are the key ones. So first one, focusing on where are we starting from. Second one, focusing on how do we interact across programs. Third one, focusing on how do we allocate resources. And the fourth are the key performance indicators for the program success going forward.
Thanks, David. Really good off the top of your head. I think we'll make a commitment that we will ask, certainly in genetic gain program, to take that diagram particularly, confirm as a group the arrows and the interactions, and then also ask those represented from the other programs to try to do the same similar mapping. I think that'd be a very good output from this next 2 days, along with your other 3 to 4. So, any other questions for the DG? Can we let him go on leave? Okay. Thanks,
anyway, I'm happy to field a couple of questions. I'm happy to field a couple of questions, Peter, by email as they come up from your discussions. I feel this is a very important program. Crop improvement is a cornerstone of CG centers, especially those like ICRISAT. But our center is uniquely positioned because we're working both on the crop angle and the systems angle. And we have a unique opportunity to bring those two together. So, and as I said, having talked to several donors and moving towards country strategies is also a critical step forward as we look to modernizing our org structure and the way in which we work with partners to achieve impact at scale. It was great to see the Asia team's presentation as well, in how they're thinking about scaling up and intersection with genetic gains. So happy to entertain any questions by email over the next 2 days as you deliberate. I think actually, Peter, a fifth suggestion is looking at past successes and understanding why they were successful. So, a launching point, for example, for the seed systems theme would be to get the team that worked on the groundnut revolving fund together, and already I had a session with Moses and Manuel and others to recap that. So, but it would really be good to document and then reverse engineer to see how that all worked and how we can replicate that in a more compressed time frame in other countries for other crops. So it was a very interesting walk through memory lane with Moses last Friday, and it would be good to capture those kinds of stories as you think through how to optimize genetic gains from a very pragmatic perspective.
Yes, I think that's on the agenda, Moses.
So I wish.
Going to sit with a few of us here and also tell the story. There might be a few others interested in his story. Might even get him a seminar. Okay. Thanks, David.
Well, I see the back of Hari Uppadiah's head there, which jogs my memory that Hari actually maintained the breeding program for groundnuts in Malawi when the station was theoretically closed. So thanks, Hari, for that. That continuity has positioned the program very well. So again, I wish you all a productive 2 days of deliberation. I hope you don't have to lock the door and throw away the key, as Moses is suggesting. But I do encourage you to put those hard issues on the table so that we can really position genetic gains for success. So I wish you all well and happy to support you via email.
Okay. Thanks, David. Good evening.
Bye for now.
Go and have our photo and a cup of coffee.